Could it be you? Could you possibly be an insecure storyteller? What is an insecure storyteller? Insecure storytellers are usually people who are very comfortable in front of an audience or giving a talk. But what they don't believe in is the power of story. They don't want to waste their audience time, and they want to get right to the strategies and the content and the process that they are there to teach. And so they think that if they go into a story, that it feels like they are not getting to the point of the talk. An insecure storyteller has a tendency to rush over details and not bring stories to life. They tend to generalize whatever that story is and not give the characters and the narrative real color and life. And so then you know what happens? It doesn't interest the audience. They are a little bit bored with the story, and it proves the speaker's suspicion. If stories were not powerful, if people did not want to lose themselves in short stories, there would be no Netflix. There would be no Yellowstone, Breaking Bad, or Game of Thrones. So I'm going to tell you how I have learned to believe in the power of story, and it is this. When I'm sharing strategy or I share a lot of neuroscience, sometimes I can see that glazed over look. But every time I launch into a very intentional story, I can feel and see my audience lean in. So 3 tips that I use to make sure that those stories are on point are, I call them carrots, exceptions, and pauses. And we're going to go through all 3 of those. And when you incorporate these strategies into your storytelling, you will see and feel your audience actually lean in, look away from their phone, and have all eyes on you. Let's start with carrots. When I talk about carrots, I'm talking about that old phrase, dangling a carrot. What you're doing is you're promising your audience something in return for their listening. So you're going to say, at the end of this talk, I'm going to promise you an easy tip. At the end of this story, you're going to learn something that you'll never forget. You're just promising something, and that fires up dopamine in your audience, and that causes them to continue to lean in and stay with you. So that's one way to keep the story, keep the audience intrigued with your story, is to offer a carrot, a reward at the end of your story. Another way to keep the audience really intrigued into your story is exceptions. People love to hear stories about things that go against the status quo or against the norm. So help your audience to actually visualize an exception. For example, I was watching this parade and every single person was marching in tandem with the beat of the drum, except for this one little girl. Now, immediately you want to know, why was this one little girl not marching with everybody else? There's a story there. So exceptions are powerful. Another powerful technique is pauses, or what I call freeze moments. There are times during your story when the most powerful thing you can do is to stop and say nothing. For example, I will never forget this moment in time. Or I asked the question and then you could hear a pin drop. Anytime you have a moment in story where you're waiting, you're in anticipation, and everything freezes in time, that grabs an audience more than any other word you can say. So powerful pauses, those times when you really want everyone to know that there was a frozen moment in your story. So those are 3 quick tips for helping you not to be an insecure storyteller. Insecure storytellers rush over the details. They generalize the story because they don't believe in its power. But if you remember that audiences love exceptions, where someone goes against the status quo, they're not in the norm. If you know the power of a pause or a frozen moment in your story, and if you promise a reward, what I call carrots, then you will see that your audience is going to lean in and listen without any distractions when you launch into a well-crafted story. Good luck with that storytelling. I'd love to hear how these tips are helping you with your presentations.